It started as a simple exploration mission on the distant planet Irilon, a world covered almost entirely by vast oceans and endless stretches of waterlogged land. Humanity had begun its expansion into the stars, and the planet was designated as a prime site for scientific research. The goal was to study the water ecosystems and maybe unlock new sources of fresh water that could benefit several drought-stricken colonies across the galaxy. But when the first humans set foot on the shore of the alien planet, something went horribly wrong. The initial landing was flawless, and the first few hours were spent setting up base camps and deploying drones to analyze the terrain. The team of researchers felt a sense of excitement as they began uncovering data on the strange waters of Irilon, but this excitement quickly turned to dread when the first signs of infection appeared within the local alien population, an indigenous species known as the Aurelians who had lived on the planet for thousands of years. Their skin began to blister, and their breathing became labored. They had no natural resistance to the toxins within the water, and within hours the once vibrant city on the shores turned into a wasteland of sickness and despair. The humans watched in stunned silence as the alien species collapsed under the ravaging effects of the waterborne pathogens that had once been their lifeblood. Humans had known about the toxic nature of alien waters in many parts of the galaxy, but no one expected something this extreme. They had always assumed that the diversity of life across the universe would lead to different resistance levels, but nothing like this had ever been encountered. But then something completely unexpected happened. The humans who had been in close contact with the water remained perfectly unaffected at first. It was dismissed as a coincidence, or perhaps an anomaly of some kind. But as the hours passed, and the Aurelians continued to fall ill one by one, the humans remained healthy. Not a single researcher showed any sign of sickness. The camp remained in perfect condition, even after exposure to the same deadly waters that were killing the Aurelians. It wasn't long before the first reports made their way back to the Galactic Council. A special transmission was sent from Irilon describing the outbreak and the strange immunity exhibited by the humans. The response from the Council was swift, and immediate panic began to spread among the governing bodies that controlled the galaxy. A species immune to something as fundamental as waterborne toxins was unheard of. It was unthinkable. Humanity was not just surviving where others had failed, it was thriving in a way that no one could comprehend. Within days, the highest authorities in the galaxy convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council representatives. From hundreds of species gathered in the grand halls of the council chamber, their minds racing with the possibilities. The implications were terrifying. This immunity was a weapon in the making. A species immune to diseases that had ravaged entire worlds could become a force that tipped the delicate balance of power within the galaxy. How could this be possible? Was it some form of advanced technology, a biological mutation, or was it something far more dangerous? In the midst of this chaos, humanity remained silent. Their delegation, offering nothing but a single statement: "We do not understand why, but we will work with the Council to uncover the truth." And as the Council debated what to do with this newfound power, the universe stood still, waiting for the answers that would change everything forever. The Galactic Council convened in a rare emergency session, convened to address the discovery that had shaken the foundation of the galaxy. It was a moment of unprecedented urgency and tension as the representatives of hundreds of species gathered around the great table. None of them had ever anticipated a species like humanity would emerge with such a dangerous anomaly. They had all read the reports and watched the transmission from Irilon, where the humans had faced down the waterborne pathogens that had decimated the local population, while they themselves remained untouched and healthy. The implications were enormous. The council was divided on how to handle the situation. Some factions called for immediate action to isolate the humans, believing that their immunity was an unforeseen threat that could destabilize the entire galaxy. Others were more cautious, arguing that humanity could become an asset if their immunity could be understood and replicated. However, the more the council investigated, the more baffling the situation became. The scientific delegation began working feverishly to dissect the human genome to find any trace of modification or alteration that might explain this unusual immunity. They ran tests, they compared human biology with other species, they examined every factor, but found nothing that could account for such an extraordinary phenomenon. No genetic modification, no advanced bioengineering, nothing that could indicate the humans were hiding something. Days turned into weeks as the Council's best researchers and geneticists pored over human samples. They examined blood cells, they studied immune responses, they even attempted to infect human volunteers with various strains of waterborne pathogens to see if the immunity held up. Each time the results were the same. No matter what pathogen was introduced into the human system, it failed to take root. No disease could affect them. The humans were immune in a way no species had ever been before. Confusion began to set in, even among the most seasoned scientists on the Council, and then the questions grew louder. Could humanity's immunity be a result of some long-lost or hidden technology that they had stumbled upon? Were they in possession of a secret weapon, or perhaps something more ancient and mysterious than anyone could have imagined? Meanwhile, the political factions of the Council were not so patient. The more time passed, the more the paranoia spread. Some began to fear that this immunity was not an accident, that the humans might be holding something back that could spell disaster for the rest of the galaxy. Even the peaceful factions started to question how much of the truth they had been told about humanity, and whether they had been kept in the dark about certain aspects of their biology. As the scientific investigation continued, the humans offered no further explanation beyond their initial statement that they did not understand why their species was immune, only that it was a natural biological trait that had evolved over time. They had no idea how or why this immunity had developed, but they had vowed to cooperate with the Council in every way that they could in hopes of finding a peaceful resolution to the crisis. The Council debated fiercely behind closed doors what to do with this knowledge. Should they continue to study the humans? Should they allow them to remain free? Or should they be contained and studied in secret by the most powerful factions in the galaxy who might use this immunity for more nefarious purposes? The sense of unease grew as it became clear that humanity's immunity was not a simple anomaly. It was a game changer that could either bring salvation to the galaxy or unravel everything they knew about life itself. And the more the Council dug into the mystery, the more it seemed that the answers would not be so easily found. Perhaps there was something deeper at play, something more ancient hidden within humanity's genetic code, something that no one had expected or prepared for. The galaxy watched with bated breath as the Council struggled to decide what to do with the humans and their mysterious immunity, knowing that the outcome would change the course of history forever. The mystery surrounding humanity's immunity to waterborne pathogens continued to baffle the Galactic Council as the days turned to weeks, and the weeks into months. The Council's scientific experts had come up with no explanations, no theories that could account for the anomaly. Human biology was ordinary in every respect, yet it was extraordinary in one key area. Their immune systems seemed to have evolved in a way that defied all known principles of biological science. Rumors began to circulate that humanity had somehow unlocked a hidden power within their genetic code, something ancient and untapped, but there was no evidence to support this claim, only more questions. What if humanity had discovered something that no other species had ever encountered before, something beyond their comprehension? Was it possible that their immunity wasn't a random occurrence, but the result of a deliberate intervention by an unknown force? The Council's suspicions grew when they learned that the humans had continued to travel to other planets, spreading their influence and offering assistance in dealing with the very diseases that had ravaged countless other civilizations. While the Aurelians had fallen victim to the toxic waters of their planet, the humans had not only survived, but they had helped other species recover from the same threat on multiple occasions. Some of the galaxy's most advanced medical experts had begun to study the humans closely, and came to the same chilling conclusion: humanity was not just immune to waterborne diseases, they were becoming the solution to a problem that had plagued civilizations for millennia. One faction within the council saw an opportunity and began to move quickly to control the situation. The Zorathians, a militaristic species known for their ruthlessness, proposed a bold and dangerous plan. They believed that if humanity's immunity could be weaponized, it could turn the tide in their favor in the ongoing power struggles between the council's member races. They began to secretly plan to capture human scientists and force them to reveal the secrets of their immunity in order to create an army of genetically altered soldiers who could not be harmed by waterborne pathogens. The Zorathians weren't the only ones interested in humanity's potential. The more peaceful factions of the council began to consider the possibility that humanity might be the key to solving some of the galaxy's greatest crises. Diseases had ravaged entire star systems, causing untold suffering. The idea of using human immunity to prevent such suffering was tempting, but it came with its own set of risks. What if humanity's immunity was not a gift to be shared, but a curse, something dangerous that should be contained? As tensions rose between the factions, the humans began to realize that their immunity was not just a blessing, but a potential curse of its own. They had become pawns in a galactic game they didn't fully understand. Their leaders had tried to keep the peace, offering cooperation with the council and helping where they could, but the growing unrest among the other species was palpable. No one trusted humanity's immunity. During a council meeting that grew increasingly heated, a representative from the human delegation stood up to speak. He was a seasoned diplomat, but the stress of the situation had clearly taken its toll. His voice was calm, but his words were heavy with the weight of their predicament. He explained that humanity had never asked for this immunity, that they had not sought it out or engineered it. It was simply part of who they were, and they had learned to live with it, but they could not control the consequences of their existence. On a galactic scale, he reminded the council that humanity was not a weapon and should not be treated as one, but as a member of a larger community that must respect the rights of all species. The tension in the room was thick and palpable as the council members weighed the human diplomat's words, but no consensus was reached. The debate raged on, and the divide between those who saw humanity as a potential savior and those who feared them as a threat only deepened. The future of humanity in the galaxy seemed uncertain at best and dangerously volatile at worst. Yet even as the debate continued, the humans remained silent. Once again, they were not demanding anything, they were not pushing for control, they were simply existing and waiting for the galaxy to decide what role they would play in the universe's future. The tension in the Galactic Council chamber was palpable as the debate grew more intense. With each passing day, factions within the council began to align themselves more firmly, either in support of humanity's cooperation or in opposition to what they saw as the growing threat of their immunity. The political landscape of the galaxy was beginning to fracture as rumors of secret alliances and covert missions to capture human scientists spread throughout the stars. The more the council members learned about humanity's immunity, the more they began to fear its potential in the wrong hands. Some factions proposed a strategy of forced collaboration with humanity, but under strict oversight. Others suggested that humanity be isolated entirely to prevent any accidental outbreaks of the mysterious immunity that might alter the balance of power forever. In the midst of this chaos, a new player emerged: the Order of the Arcanists, an ancient and secretive organization of scholars and mystics who had long studied the galaxy's most profound mysteries. The Arcanists believed that humanity's immunity was not merely a biological anomaly, but something far deeper, something tied to an ancient cosmic force they had been studying for centuries. According to their teachings, a hidden power flowed through the fabric of the universe, and only a select few species had the potential to tap into it. They believed humanity had unknowingly become the key to unlocking this power, and if they could control it, they could reshape the fate of the galaxy. As the Arcanists began to covertly observe human behavior and study their interactions with the galaxy's waterborne pathogens, they discovered a troubling truth: humanity's immunity was not simply the result of random genetic evolution. It appeared to be a manifestation of an energy force that was slowly awakening within them, and as the force grew stronger, so too did humanity's potential to alter the very fabric of reality itself. This discovery sent shockwaves through the Arcanists. Their research into humanity's immunity became their top priority, but their methods were far from peaceful. Meanwhile, the Zorathians, who had been biding their time since the start of the debate, saw an opportunity to strike. Their forces moved swiftly under the guise of diplomatic outreach to human colonies. They dispatched elite operatives to infiltrate the human population and steal the secrets behind their immunity. These operatives, highly trained in espionage and subterfuge, were experts in disguising their true intentions. Their mission was simple: capture human scientists, extract the knowledge of their genetic immunity, and return to the Zorathian homeworld to begin creating genetically enhanced soldiers who would be impervious to all waterborne diseases. At first, the humans had no idea they were being targeted. Their everyday lives carried on as usual, but whispers of covert missions began to surface when a respected human biologist disappeared under suspicious circumstances. The Council began to realize that the search for the truth was no longer just an academic pursuit. It had become a race to control the secret of humanity's immunity. The human delegation, shaken by these revelations, called an emergency meeting to address the growing threats to their people. But as they prepared to defend themselves against the attacks from the Zorathians and others, a far more dangerous threat emerged: a virus unlike any other one that could survive in water and attack even those who were immune to typical pathogens. This new virus was not of natural origin. It had been engineered by a faction within the Council as a final measure to combat humanity's immunity. The virus was released in secret, with the hope that it would overwhelm the humans and expose a weakness in their genetic makeup. But to the surprise of the Council members, the humans fought back, using their own science and technology to neutralize the virus before it could spread. The virus was no match for humanity's ability to adapt and counteract even the most sophisticated biological threats. It was at this moment that the Council realized something far more troubling. The virus had been a test, but not just of humanity's immunity. It was a test of their willingness to fight back and adapt to survive. The humans had passed the test, and now their place in the galaxy was no longer in question. They were not just survivors. They were becoming something far greater. The battle for knowledge had turned into a battle for control of the future of the galaxy, and humanity had proven that they were not to be underestimated. The galaxy was on the brink of a paradigm shift, and humanity found itself at the center of a storm they had never anticipated. As news of their immunity spread, the stakes escalated higher than anyone could have predicted. The Council, now fully aware of the immense power humanity wielded, faced a choice: how to handle this new and potentially world-altering force. Some factions, like the Zorathians, pushed for immediate action, while others, more diplomatically inclined, suggested a cooperative approach. But amid the growing tension, the humans themselves were left with the ultimate decision: to align with the Council or break free and chart their own path. For weeks, the Council deliberated behind closed doors, each faction pulling in different directions. Some sought to protect humanity, advocating for full integration into the Galactic Alliance, believing the humans' immunity could help wipe out long-standing diseases that had crippled countless civilizations. Others, more cautious, feared that granting too much power to one species could destabilize the balance of the galaxy, leading to unprecedented chaos. And then there were those who feared that humans could become the galaxy's next weapon, capable of overthrowing entire empires if they were ever to turn their immunity into a tool of war. Humanity's representatives had initially offered cooperation, extending the olive branch to the Council, with hopes of forging a peaceful path forward. But as the weeks dragged on and political games continued, the human delegation began to question the true intentions of the Council. They had shared their research, offered their assistance to help other species combat waterborne diseases, yet they were met with suspicion, espionage, and increasingly hostile actions. It became clear that the galaxy's treatment of humanity was not as benevolent as they had hoped. The turning point came when a diplomatic envoy from the Zorathian Empire made a bold proposition to the human representatives. They offered a deal: a shared control of human immunity in exchange for military support against their enemies. The terms were clear. The humans would become partners in the Zorathian war machine, providing their immunity to create an unstoppable force. The Zorathians promised to protect humanity from the other factions, but the price was steep. Humans would be subjugated under their banner, their research, and their future controlled by an alien empire. The human delegation was left in shock. The proposal was a blatant power play, an attempt to turn humanity into an asset rather than an ally. It became clear that the Zorathians were not the only ones trying to manipulate them. Each faction, each species with a stake in the galactic balance, saw humanity as a prize to be claimed, but none saw them as equals. In the face of these threats and offers, humanity made a decision that would resonate throughout the galaxy. A gathering of human leaders, scientists, and diplomats met in secret on a distant moon, far from the eyes of the Council. There, they made their choice. They would not bow to any empire. They would not be pawns in a galactic game. If the galaxy could not accept them as equals, they would forge their own path. The human delegation sent a message to the Council, one that would echo across the stars. Humanity would no longer negotiate from a position of weakness. They would stand firm in their own identity and fight for their right to determine their destiny. With this declaration, humanity's place in the galaxy was forever altered. No longer would they be a mysterious anomaly to be feared or exploited. They would rise, not as pawns or subjects, but as a force to be reckoned with. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and humanity had taken the first step toward a new era, one that they would shape according to their will, not the will of others. As the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next move, humanity stood at the crossroads of destiny, uncertain of what lay ahead, but resolute in their determination to stand tall in a galaxy that would never again look at them the same way. The message humanity had sent was clear. They would no longer be passive players in the galaxy's endless struggles for power. Their decision to reject the Zorathian offer was met with swift and brutal retribution. The Zorathian Empire, furious at the humans' refusal to bow to their will, launched a full-scale invasion of the human colonies. Their fleets, armed with advanced weaponry and equipped with state-of-the-art military technology, descended on human-held systems with terrifying speed. The attack was sudden, calculated, and merciless. The Zorathians were confident that their overwhelming technological superiority would crush humanity quickly. After all, humanity had always been a peaceful species, focused on exploration, science, and diplomacy. They had never known war on the scale that the Zorathians had mastered. But what the Zorathians didn't account for was the one thing that made humanity unique: their immunity. The first battles were devastating for the Zorathian forces. As they deployed toxic water-based weapons meant to wipe out the human resistance, they quickly learned that their biological warfare had no effect. Humanity's soldiers, colonists, and civilians were completely immune to the waterborne pathogens. The Zorathians had expected the humans to succumb to the same fate as the Aurelians on Aurilan, but instead, the humans adapted, using their immunity as a tactical advantage. Human forces launched counterattacks with a ferocity that took the Zorathians by surprise. Using guerrilla tactics and their own technological innovations, humans turned the tables on their would-be conquerors. The Zorathians' superior fleets were slowly dismantled by humans who had nothing to lose and everything to fight for. The human military, though relatively inexperienced compared to the ancient empires of the galaxy, was resourceful and determined. The Zorathians, blinded by their sense of superiority, underestimated humanity's resilience and ingenuity. But humanity's struggle was far from easy. The Zorathians didn't just attack with weapons. They manipulated entire ecosystems, flooding planets with engineered viruses, trying to destroy human habitats and food supplies. Every strike was intended to weaken humanity's resolve, but it only made them stronger. The human forces adapted with alarming speed, learning from each battle and perfecting their defenses. As human technology evolved rapidly in response to the Zorathian onslaught, the Council began to realize something terrifying. Humanity was not just immune to disease. They were rapidly evolving into a self-sufficient, technologically advanced species capable of holding their own against the galaxy's greatest powers. In the midst of the war, The Council's divisions deepened. Some factions, realizing that humanity's potential was no longer something to be feared, began to voice support for them, hoping to end the conflict before it spiraled out of control. But the more militant factions, including the Zorethians, refused to relent. They saw the humans as a threat to the entire galactic order and would not stop until they had crushed them. As the war escalated, the rest of the galaxy watched, unsure of where their allegiances should lie. Some species, previously neutral, began sending covert support to humanity, recognizing that their immunity could be the key to combating the same threats that had decimated their own worlds. Others, fearful of the precedent humanity was setting, continued to back the Zorethians, hoping to suppress what they saw as an unpredictable force that could upset the delicate balance of galactic politics. With every battle, humanity's reputation grew. They were no longer a species that could be pushed around. They were survivors, warriors, and innovators. But the true test was yet to come. The Zorethians, realizing they couldn't defeat humanity in conventional warfare, turned to their most dangerous weapon: a fleet of massive water contamination vessels capable of flooding entire planets with lethal toxins. It was a weapon of mass destruction, one that could potentially end humanity's resistance once and for all. As the final showdown loomed on the horizon, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of their place in the galaxy. The stakes had never been higher, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Would humanity's immunity be their salvation, or would it lead to their undoing in the face of overwhelming power? The outcome of the war would define not only humanity's future, but the very nature of power and survival in the galaxy itself. The galaxy held its breath as the war reached its most desperate phase. Humanity, now deeply entrenched in the conflict with the Zorethian Empire, had suffered heavy losses, but also achieved miraculous victories. The Zorethians, in their final bid to crush humanity's resolve, unleashed their greatest weapon: the fleet of water contamination vessels. These massive, technologically advanced ships were designed to flood entire planets with engineered toxins, capable of wiping out all life forms, no matter their immunity. It was a weapon built for one purpose: to exterminate humanity and erase their existence from the galaxy. The Zorethian Empire believed that with these vessels, they could ensure their dominance over humanity once and for all. The weapons were deployed, and several human-held worlds were targeted. The toxins were released, flooding ecosystems, destroying crops, and threatening to obliterate entire populations. The waters began to rise, turning from clear to deadly in a matter of hours. But as the Zorethian forces stood poised for victory, something remarkable happened. The humans, whose immunity had been the key to their survival, had adapted once again. A coalition of human scientists, engineers, and military strategists had worked in secret to develop an antidote to the toxins, using their own immunity as the foundation. They had learned how to neutralize the engineered viruses and purify the water, making the Zorethian weapon useless. The humans were not only immune to the diseases, they had found a way to reverse the damage caused by the toxins. It was a turning point in the war. The Zorethians, who had expected humanity to crumble under the weight of their biological assault, found themselves facing a new enemy, one that was not only immune but capable of outsmarting them at every turn. The human forces, armed with their new technology, launched a counteroffensive, reclaiming the planets that had been flooded and purifying the waters. The Zorethian fleet, once seen as invincible, now found itself in retreat. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity, against all odds, began to turn the tide of the war. Their adaptability, ingenuity, and unyielding will to survive had become their greatest strengths. They had become a symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope for those who had long believed that the balance of power in the galaxy could never be challenged. But the war was far from over. The Zorethians, humiliated and enraged, refused to surrender. They regrouped and began to prepare for one final assault. This time, using the full might of their fleet, augmented by the best military technologies the galaxy had ever seen. The battle for control of the galaxy's future had reached its climax. In the midst of the chaos, an unexpected development occurred. The Council, once divided and fractured over how to handle humanity, began to see the larger picture. As Zorathian forces continued to press their attack, several factions that had once been opposed to humanity's rise began to reconsider their positions. They saw in humanity a new form of strength, one that could change the very nature of galactic power. Humanity's willingness to fight back, to adapt, to refuse to submit, had made them more than just a potential threat. They were becoming a new pillar of the galaxy's future. Behind the scenes, representatives from several influential factions began to broker secret alliances with humanity, offering military support, resources, and advanced technologies in exchange for future cooperation. These factions, though still cautious, recognized that the time to act was now. If humanity could defeat the Zorathians, they would need to be allies, not enemies. Humanity stood on the edge of victory, but it was a victory that would come at a great cost. The final battle, the most intense and catastrophic yet, would be fought in the heart of the galaxy itself. The fate of humanity and the entire galaxy hung in the balance. Would humanity emerge as the saviors of the galaxy, or would the Zorathians deliver one final, crushing blow? As the two forces prepared for their last clash, the galaxy braced itself for the inevitable, the end of an era, and the birth of a new chapter in galactic history, written not by the powerful empires of old, but by the resilient, determined species known as humanity. The final battle began with a ferocity that shook the very fabric of the galaxy. The Zorathian Empire, now fully aware that their grip on the galaxy was slipping, assembled their greatest fleet, a monstrous armada equipped with the deadliest weapons they had ever developed. Their forces, numbering in the tens of thousands, were poised for a last stand, an all-out assault on humanity's heartlands, with the hopes of extinguishing the flame of resistance once and for all. Humanity, though still outnumbered, was ready. Their military had been transformed by the conflict, evolving in ways no one could have predicted. The war had brought out the best in humanity, its adaptability, its ability to innovate under pressure, and its unbreakable will to survive. They had forged alliances with other factions of the galaxy, rallying those who believed in a future where the oppressive empires of the past could no longer dominate. Humanity's military was now backed by an eclectic coalition, a powerful force determined to ensure the survival of not only humanity, but also the hope of a new galactic order. As the two forces met in the vast expanse of space, the clash was monumental. Explosions rocked the stars as fleets collided, the bright lights of laser fire and explosions painting the sky. Humanity's forces, led by experienced military commanders and armed with cutting-edge technology, fought with a desperation that had been forged in the crucible of war. Every human ship was a symbol of resistance, a testament to the strength of a species that had once been a mere curiosity, but was now becoming the most powerful force in the galaxy. The Zorathians, though technologically superior, could not match the resourcefulness of humanity. Their fleets, though massive, struggled to contend with the unorthodox tactics that humanity employed. The humans had learned from every battle, adapted to every threat, and now they fought not only to protect themselves but to secure their place in the galaxy. It wasn't just a military victory they sought. It was the survival of their species, the preservation of their right to choose their destiny. The turning point came when humanity's forces successfully disabled the Zorathian flagship, a colossal vessel that had been the heart of their war effort. With the flagship crippled, the Zorathian fleet began to falter. The shockwaves from the destruction of their command center rippled through the Empire, breaking the cohesion of their forces. Zorathian commanders, realizing that defeat was imminent, began to retreat, abandoning their position in a desperate bid to save themselves from total annihilation. It was then that the most unexpected thing occurred. The Council, long divided, saw the writing on the wall. As the Zorathian forces began to crumble, representatives from various factions, that had been wary of humanity's rise, now saw the inevitable. The time had come to negotiate peace, not through force, but through diplomacy. A new path forward had emerged, and humanity was no longer just a pawn in the games of the galaxy's old powers. Humanity's leaders, seasoned by years of struggle, stood firm. They had no desire for empire, no intention of dominating the galaxy as the Zorathians had. They sought only one thing: the freedom to determine their own future. The Council, now fully acknowledging humanity's strength, began to reach out, offering them a place at the table, a true partnership where all species could coexist as equals. The Zorathians, broken and retreating, had no choice but to surrender. Their empire, once thought invincible, had been shattered by a species they had underestimated. The human victory was not just a military one. It was a victory for the entire galaxy, signaling the end of an era of tyrannical empires and the dawn of a new age of cooperation and understanding. Humanity had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the strength of spirit and the will to survive could change the fate of the galaxy. The Zorathian Empire, once a symbol of unstoppable power, had fallen, and in its place, a new vision for the future was born. A future where humanity, no longer an anomaly, would stand as an equal among the stars. The Galactic Council, now united in the face of a common future, welcomed humanity as a full member, recognizing their unique place in the galaxy. And as the war-torn systems began to rebuild, humanity's message was clear. The galaxy could no longer be ruled by fear and conquest. It was time for a new era, one of unity, collaboration, and shared destiny. The rise of humanity had changed everything, and the stars would never again look the same.